Hello, the game has started. It's my opponent to go first. I've got an awful rack, all consonants, and I will almost certainly be changing. I can't think of any play by opponent which would enable me to prefer playing, and I can leave a pretty decent rack lead with RST. So how much of a head start is opponent going to get on me in this game? Certainly if I draw well from my change, I should be right back in. Great, nothing huge for opponent. Just confirming I don't have anything amazing. Can I get my J or Q tripled? No, I think the best I can do is something like Taj. I am changing. And keeping 3 consonants, slightly dangerous compared with keeping 2, but these go well together. Well, that didn't work out. That's partly the danger of keeping 3 consonants. If I'd kept only 2, then I could have drawn 1 vowel and this rack would have a different complexion. So, should I be changing again? Just looking at this A and E. So I could play birth, but that doesn't score very much, keeps D and G. I guess through an O, if I could play something like Brog, keeping DST, that might be worth considering. Okay, an opponent provides no new vowels. But should I be playing? Probably. So, what about Bath? 17 points, takes an E. Doesn't feel great. Herb, 14 points. Again, a pretty rubbish rack leave. I could easily draw 3 more consonants. What about, well, it's not Grath, it's Garth. Well, I am actually contemplating changing again. Everything I'm seeing is keeping 4 consonants, not scoring very much, and not really obstructing the board either. So I'll just chuck back what I picked. And I now have refracts and crafters, certainly refracts, and that does play at the moment in row F. Opponent must be slightly suspicious of all this changing and fearing that I now do have a decent rack. And I do, but it's not a 7-letter bingo. Great. Refracts remains available. I'm not going to check crafters. I don't think there's any difference in the plays in terms of the board, because crafters would place an E under this double word square. So refracts for 73. And a balanced rack, but it's not a bingo-y one. I have the W for score. And I have a slight lead. So I could play Glow in row E, but that does take an A front hook. I can play Wog in row K. Not yet been banned, but will shortly be. But neither of those plays feels great. So is there something better? Fat takes an E. I could play Tweel. Well, only 25 points, and the rack leave of GO is pretty horrible. I'd have to be quite lucky to get a bingo. I'd really like to play off 5 tiles and keep ET, or 4 and keep ELT. A D's is good. I don't have an A. Nothing goes in front of ZE. 57 points for opponent. That's good. Would he have had that if I'd played crafters? Well, quite possibly. Now, What am I going to do here? Only my L goes after ZE, so I think row K or column 12 are better bets. Well, WOG isn't terrible in terms of rack leave, 24 points. It's not giving much away, it's taking out quite a useful spot. I do trail, but the board is fairly open. Nor doesn't take an S, so this is quite a blocky play. But I am going with this. Well, the vowels are now coming out to place, 5 of them. And no A for a daze. So étoile would get rid of 6 of these tiles, all 1-pointers, so it's going to be a struggle to score unless there are some scoring tiles on the board I can get value from. Wow, 43 points for opponent. And look at this, Jar takes an A in front, and I do not have an A. Now, what am I going to do? I don't want to keep too many vowels because I'll just have a repetition of the problem of having a vowel-heavy rack, which is a non-bingo-y rack. I'm looking in row L. So I can play toe rather, or I could play toile, sticking an E in the middle of column 15. Well, I think toe is better, but only 15 points and a vowel-heavy rack leave. Surely I can do better. Raj takes nothing in front. Nor takes a G in front, so row H available. Now, what about a toile across here? 23 points, sorting the rack out, providing floaters, which is good since I trail. Leaving column 13 alone for an S hook. I am going with this. Wow, pretty good. I draw a blank. The Q less welcome. And no A for cat. So my lack of A's has really been frustrating in this game. It's denied me several scoring spots. And there's not very much I can do with this Q. 27 points for opponent. He's scoring solidly. I think it may be a good idea to change unless I have a bingo. Well, do I? The blank would almost certainly have to be a U. So I'm not seeing one. How many O's to come? 4. So I am going to change. I don't think there's anywhere on this board for the Q which doesn't burn the blank, and no big score from burning it. So this is the dilemma. Do I keep an O? No, because I think if I draw another O, then this rack becomes non-bingo-y, and by having the blank can always be a vowel. I'm doing this. Well, gosh, I have eatery, but does that play? Not sure it does. So that would be the blank as an A, but that doesn't work in row C. Do I have anything other than eatery? Our opponent's played quite quickly. He's had the U's. Eatery now plays in row M because of taupe. But do I have anything better? What about column 1, beginning BE? Not seeing anything. I have retiree with the blank as an R. Payu takes an M. Not sure if it takes an S, don't think so. Top takes an I, so eatery could play 1 square further along. Retiree would also work in that spot. But I can't get a play which extends underneath this U with the moves I've currently considered. What about a play through this S? that would open up row A. It would get doubled, which would be 6 more points, but I'm getting more than 6 points from top and G, so it's not going to be a better play. Now, I think retiree is better because it doesn't place a vowel over this triple letter square. So retiree for 68. And, well, I still trail, and I've got a non-balanced rack, but I do have a vowel. Still one blank to come. And this nor and snore spot remains available in row H. This S ordinarily would be quite handy, but I'm not seeing any useful plays unless Penx is good. Wow, fantastic bingo by opponent, not using a blank. And he's now got a 100-point lead. So anyway, great for my scoring tiles, P and K. I certainly want to sort out the duplicate N. Pad is good. So I'm not going to do this, but this is 32 points with this rack leave. And that's just problematic. I would be very fortunate to score next turn, or score well next turn if I made that play, and 30 points is a fairly average score, so can I do better? Still want M to come for Pyum. I'd like to keep the board open. What about this L? Well, I'm hampered by only having one vowel. This may not be good, but if it is good, well, look at that, 22 rather than 32 points, just to get rid of an N. But that N's definitely worth -5, and it'll be worse by taking it from 3 consonants to 4. So I think this is a better play, or a comparable one. But this rack leave is grim. I haven't seen anything better, and this may not be good. It is good, but only one vowel through an E. I would have brangled, and there is an E. But will that stay available? I doubt it. Opponent is going to be aware that he only leads by a bingo, so this is an obvious spot to play. In particular, column 12 could be an easy 30 or 40 point play. Fantastic. Opponent hasn't blocked brangled. This isn't going to score very much, but it's got to be better than any non-bingo. Does brangled have an anagram? No. Are there any other spots? Well, it would have to be through a vowel, and this is the only vowel available. Now, I trail by 20, and I have the X. Are there any hot X spots? Well, I've been quite diligent about not putting vowels next to triple letter squares, so there isn't. And this board looking quite tight, still one blank to come, still the Q to come. No G or S on my rack. Now, opponent only played off OU, that's slightly suspicious, only 10 points. He probably kept a 5-tile powerhouse. And that may be why he left the E alone. Maybe he was hoping to benefit from it. So, 18 points for opponent. I don't think Payu does take an S, I think it's just an M. So this board is really short on bingo lanes. I trail by 30. A good X play could put me right back in the game. Do I have a good X play? Well, not that I've seen so far. I'm just going to leave this H alone. Opponent may bingo through it, but I don't think I can do much about that. Can't see a play in row B ending O or A. Double D or even just single D doesn't go great with the X. Ord is good. But again, no 5-letter X play. Dioxan is good. Wow, interesting. That does play in row N. But then men takes an E. Only one E to come. Opponent may simply not have a bingo. Look at the amount of junk that's left. V, W, Q, lots of O's, lots of I's. So let me see what Dyaxon scores. And there's Dioxan. Well, it has to be Dioxan. 42 points, that's a decent score. And it might put opponent in a tricky spot in the sense that if he hasn't got the bingo, he may feel he has to play something in row O. And if he doesn't, I could play there. 42 points would take me to, well, it would take me into the lead. Wow. Still one G to come for Nor, but that's going to provide bingo-y floaters, so I'm not necessarily a fan of that. This O is hot, so I could be providing a spot for opponent to unload or to make a play when he doesn't have a bingo. How am I doing for time? 9 minutes on my clock. Is Dioxan best? And I'm concerned about the scoring opportunities for opponent in row O, both bingo and non-bingo. If I could get 7 or 40 points, 30, 40 points with the X and the D somewhere else, it would obviously be a much better idea. But can I? Just not too many lanes to consider. Docs is good, so is there anywhere for just DOX? Well, there is because of Geed. But look at this, row N is a really hot 7-letter bingo lane. Bingo's ending ES can play there, so I think that's persuaded me. I am going to go with Dioxan for 42. Well, I draw the Q. However, I do now have A and T to go with it. So I have cat in row C. That's good. Now, look at the remaining tiles. They don't look bingo-y, but with a blank, if you took the best tiles here, then there would be bingos, and that would be the end of the game for me. I lead by 4. And the Pium spot remains available in column 14. What if an opponent doesn't play in row O? Well, I have cat bottom left. Might even score more than row C. 10 tiles in the bag. Through an R, I would have Trank. No R's available, and all have been played. 2's not good. Otherwise, cat would play in row J. Great, look at that. Opponent didn't have a bingo and felt obliged to take that spot. Only 28 points. I've now got cat for 41. 34 if I played in row C, so this is a better spot. Is it the best spot? And I think I'm in better shape with this 4-consonant leave given the number of vowels. There are 9 vowels out of 14 tiles. There are only 5 consonants left in the game, or 4 consonants and a blank. So cat for 41 would take me to 358, a lead of 17. That's pretty good. Is cat best? Paiute not good. Not seeing anywhere else for my cue. 7 minutes on my clock. I am going with this. And I do draw vowels, which is good. I don't have a bingo. And, well, a lot of I's to come. Where's the opponent played? He's played somewhere. B12. Idea, he's swamped with vowels, and now he's burnt the last E. And I think part of his thinking behind that is to create a 7-letter lane in column 13. Yeah. Now, I still don't have a G or S for Nor or Snore. That would be an easy way to frustrate column 13. What to do? 6 minutes on my clock. one tile in the bag. So core takes a W. I trail by 7. Let me have a look at column 13. It would require a 2-tile overlap. That's very precise. Car takes an I, but NE takes only a T or a W. Well, opponent could have a bingo down there. There's only one tile in the bag. It's probably an I. So let me put my cursor over that. Does opponent have a bingo with AIINTW blank? Gosh, does he? He would have waiting, but that doesn't play. KAA, not good. Let me put this cursor over the eye and take my hand away. I don't know how to stop it flickering. I want to run through the alphabet in my mind. I have 5 minutes. I have DOH in row C in my back pocket if I don't need to block column 13. So let me run through the alphabet. A, B. I'll do it in my mind. Nothing with an E. What about the G? Well, that's waiting, which I've discounted. Great, the M's gone for Pium. It's on my rack. Fantastic. Tor, I don't think Torhini is with a W. So where am I up to? Waiting. That was with the blank as a G. Nothing with an M, N, O. Wapiti's only a 6. Nothing with an R. What about an S? No. T? No. There isn't one. And if the opponent's got 3 I's and the W's in the bag, I'm not seeing one. How dangerous is the H? Well, nothing I can see. Okay, so 4 minutes on my clock. What am I going to do? Well, I considered dough, because I do trail, so even if opponent doesn't have a bingo, I need to try and win. So dough is good, but I'm not going to go out with this rack. Pium is good. So do I have a play? What would mold score? 22. And then I would have NOH in column C. Interesting. Should I play NOH first? Pium takes an S. What if the blank was an S? Well, opponent might have a big score, so I think the thing to do is to play NOH first. For 28, then I have mold, which does play in column 13 as well as column 14, so I should have an out. 28 points is a decent score. I'm going with this. Let me pause there. I'm going to draw 1 tile from the bag. It's probably going to be an I. 2 minutes on my clock. I'm not going to have an out with this rack plus an I. So let me go back to dough. This rack plus an I. No. Wow, that's frustrating. What to do? Maybe there's a longer play somewhere. Well, let me come back to mold then here. Well, the danger is opponent plays something like Twains for a big score. 2 minutes on my clock. Absolutely crucial moment. What about home? 25 points. Now what if I draw an I? I would have, well, no die, but nowhere for it. 1 minute on my clock. Mondo is good. The real difficulty is drawing this I. And although it may not be an I, it would be sensible to have an out were it to be an I. 1 minute on my clock. I think I'm going back to NOH. At least I do have mould for a half decent score. No for 28. Wow, it's a W. Gosh. Well, that may be good. Opponent can't score off the W. Now, is opponent about to drop a bingo on me that I hadn't considered? My lead is just 20 points. But opponent is going to have 2 goes and I'm going to have 1. He needs to outscore me by 20. Is there a way of... Ah, great. Well, I can play Mo. Mo and Pi, and that gets rid of my 2 high-scoring tiles. Mo also plays in column 13. 1 minute on my clock, 13 on opponents. Mo also plays in row J, so there's a ton of places for Mo. Is there a way of getting rid of 1 more tile? It may be crucial. Gosh, this is so finely balanced. An opponent's got a lot of time to find a play if there is one. If opponent plays his A in the open, I would have Wad Mole. No A's currently available. So let me consider. I only have a minute, so I'm going to have to act pretty quickly. What about Mo in column 14? 24 points. Mo in row J, 21. Mo in column 13 got to be less, so I do have Mo. Wow. What's opponent doing that for? So I have Wold, let me just see this for score, 25 points. And then does opponent have an S play? This rack plus an S, only 30 seconds. Is this the play? Cade takes an S, he would have Stain. I don't think I'm worried about that. I think I outrun him with my M. But if I play Mo, I would have D and L. I think this gives me more flexibility. I am going with this. 20 seconds, 19 seconds on my clock. Isotin. Oh, and that plays in column 15. Rats. I think that may be enough for opponent. He would have about 28. Well, no, maybe it not. Maybe it won't be enough. Maybe Isotin isn't enough. Wow. This is finely balanced, but opponent does have an out. He does have Isotin. Now, where's the best place for my M? I have 19 seconds. So I have Yom, 11, 10 for more. Let me see how far down the board I can get. Mutt for 11. I mustn't forget where the good spots are. Yom is the one I need to keep most in mind, I think. Pyam, only 9. Retiree takes an S. So an opponent goes out. And yes, fantastic. I've just seen that it's not enough. And the final score, 408 for opponent, 411 for me, a winning margin of 3 points. So a huge, huge win. Let's see what I missed. Wow, what a game. Unbelievable. That was an amazing game. Right from the beginning with 2 changes. So, was there needless drama? It was opponent to go first. That was insane. And opponent plays Cave. Could have played Cavey. Myrak. And I change here. And yeah, absolutely right decision given what's being suggested. Opponent's rack, also short on vowels, plays Siren. Well, Bag actually probably looks better than changing DRST. It was the DG combo, which I didn't like, which features in most of the other plays, so I think Bag better than changing. Opponent plays Fat. And now refracts and crafters both good, and refracts actually scores more. So I lead. Opponent plays days for 57, and this was a troublesome rack. I didn't like the rack leaves, and the scores were quite low, so I went with wog for 24, keeping telly, and I think telly is a nicer rack leave than most of these, or all of them. Yeah. Opponent's rack. Wow. He would have jaybirds through the D. That's not in the right place. Plays Raj. And I play étoile for 23. And that's definitely better than getting 9 more points and keeping 4 vowels. Opponent's rack. Plays by. And now this is where I changed for the third time. And I could have got 37 points, L11, for rogue, sticking an E in the middle of column 15. Burning the blank. Well, I think changing is better, keeping blank ERT. That's a very strong lead, must be worth about 40 points. So these moves may be comparable, but I prefer the move I made. Now, opponent's rack plays Pio, and I saw eatery and retiree, but M7, Tenia, where's that playing from? Ah, ending IER. Wow, I should have spotted that. 80 points, so yeah, 12 points thrown away there. And look at this, fantastic bingo by opponent of Lissam, but F2, Outsmiles also available as a 9-letter play. So I did not feel good at this point. I trailed by 100 and I had a very unbalanced rack. I played Penks, and it doesn't feature on this list because it scores so little, but these rack leaves are awful. Apart from J3, Plink, which perhaps I should have done, although that's the same score as Penks, but the rack leave is good. Penks does have the advantage, given that I trail by 100, of creating bingo lanes. Now, look at this. What a glorious sight. Opponent plagued with vowels. Plays OU. So let's just go back. He played OU. Yeah, well, maybe a better play would have been changing the right-hand 5. I'm not sure OU scores enough given how poor the rack leave is, given that he has a blank. Anyway, my rack, and I have brangled for 65, which gave me a scintilla of hope. I still trail by 20. Oh, look at this. Opponent has blocked behaviour by playing Lissam. That would have worked in column 1. Plays Hun. Let me just go back. He plays Hun from this, again keeping a not great rack. And wow, this was a moment of truth play. I really agonised over playing Dioxan. I just couldn't see any alternative. But well, Axoid is available, but that's in the same spot. Detox K8. That's nice. I may have played that had I seen it. Yeah, it would have taken out row N as a 7-letter lane. The X is not a useful floater. My rack lead would have been good. So I think Detox would have been the play there, and only 3 points less than Dioxan. Now, opponent doesn't have a bingo in row O, doesn't have a big tile to put under the O, plays Gov. And wow, I have Lath in row O. However, I think burning the Q for only 6 fewer points is a better play. Opponent still with a ton of vowels, plays Idea. And here we go, 1 tile in the bag. I trail. Opponent has got 7 of these 8 tiles. What are my options? So I play no for 28. Yeah, well, from a score and rack leave perspective, nothing stands out, but this wasn't just about score and rack leave, it was about blocking bingos. But having said that, I couldn't see any bingos at all from the remaining tiles, so I guess maybe it was about score and rack leave. And I think it was also about what if I drew an I, could I have a Rackley which enabled me to go out, and I completely failed to find such a play. Now, opponent plays Kai, and I lead by 14. So what do? B14 wold. Yeah, that was my play. And that outruns Isotin, so I think it is a winning play. And there we go, Isotin available. So wold does provide Isotin. It may be that an alternative to wold would have enabled me to win by a greater margin, but wold certainly did the job. Opponent spots Isotin, goes out, and look at that, it's just not enough. So my winning streak continues. But what a game, absolutely tremendous game. I really thought that I was going to be on the losing side of this battle. Not only did I start with changing twice, but it was more in the middle of the game where I trailed by 100 and had a crappy rack and the board was pretty tight. I played Penks and that stayed available and I was able to bingo, and that was the turning point, the moment of inflection where I came back into the game. And then really I was fortunate that opponent had the blank, but his rack never materialized into a bingo. So absolutely cracking fun. Many thanks to my opponent for a good battle. I hope you enjoyed watching that game, and I will see you next time.